As mentioned in the last devlog, we needed a building system so you can construct physical objects for the vehicle parts that you have gathered, since building important upgrades is pretty boring if there's no difference to the vehicle. So, all of them act as powerful upgrades, increasing the vehicle's stats as well as physically changing the look of the vehicle, such as the radio adding a bunch of antennas or the fuel combustor adding more bracing to the heat core and engine in order to make the vehicle look more stabilized, so it can handle the increased power output. Additionally, there's room for expanding it further, so that they can unlock more hardpoints for the turrets, or otherwise change the look of the vehicle, such as using it to remove parts to, for example, open up a previously blocked off room. Sorry for the long break between devlogs. I got distracted by working on Scorching Engines, wishlist on Steam, and rewriting large parts of it, which will be covered in future devlogs as this one is about building. I've actually had experience making a building system before, as it was my first foray into Unity Dots and ECS almost 6 years ago, where I made a Rust-like building system. That was actually also the source of the inventory for Scorching Engines, as well as the Radial Menu used for building. I did however have to do a whole lot of redesigning for the Radial Menu, so it's actually useful, because before it was pretty difficult to use as the icon didn't match the segment. But now it's pretty decent looking, although it definitely needs more work and a fresh coat of paint when I figure out how I want the UI style to be for Scorching Engines. In order to not spoil the vehicle parts and what they may do, I made it so that they are fully omitted from the Radial Menu until you get the main vehicle part ingredient, and automatically resizes based on how many buildables you can build, and highlights any missing resources, which together with the notification pop-up allows you to figure out how to build the vehicle parts. Although, since I actually stole parts of the building code more than a year ago when I implemented the crafting system, I recently found a bug that affected both the building and crafting, where you could in some instances end up with a negative stack size for items. So by building a big chest you could end up with minus 50 wood in your inventory, which isn't quite correct, and the vehicle was a bit unhappy about using it as fuel. This also meant that crafting sometimes stalled itself due to the negative amount and was unable to continue crafting or be cancelled. However, with that out of the way, it was time to actually make a proper building system instead of just left-clicking to spawn a prefab. Unfortunately, this time my previous solution and current requirements are far removed from each other, as for the previous game there was no concept of a moving platform, meanwhile Scorching Engines is mainly about a moving platform. So the biggest task is making a good building system that works both on moving objects and when on static ground. Even if I could just prevent building if the vehicle is moving, but that feels like a cop-out. Fundamentally, building systems are pretty simple, so I started out by spawning a ghost variant of the buildable prefab, using a transparent material with no colliders, and then we make it follow where you're looking and align it to surfaces, so it tilts if placed on a slanted surface or if the vehicle itself rotates. After that, it's making the player capable of rotating it before placing, so you can align it with other objects. The next step involves doing a few checks to make sure it's not overlapping or sticking through anything else, so you can't build 50 chests inside of each other or build a chest inside of a wall. After that, it's making sure you actually have the resources required to build it, and finally you just left click to build it and you're done. But unfortunately, life isn't just sunshine and rainbows, as I quickly realized that because the vehicle is a moving platform, I had made Tetris instead of a building system. So I had to make it automatically follow the vehicle's movement and rotation as it drives across the terrain, as well as reacting to the player's inputs, which is done by continuously updating the parent offset component used by the vehicle systems. With that, we have a building system where we have freeform building or hardpoints snap the building for turrets and the vehicle points, where you can modify separate parts of the vehicle, and where you can build off of the vehicle as well. Now I just need to add a lot more buildables, as well as some collectibles you can find and then place on in your vehicle. Or perhaps just building snowmen for fun, since you have to have at least a little bit of fun, even if it is a post-apocalyptic world. If you're interested in Scorching Engines or the devlogs, you can wishlist the game on Steam or subscribe here on YouTube. And even if I say so every single time, hopefully it won't be another 6 months until the next devlog, as I do want to have more frequent devlogs, albeit shorter.